the Astana Dragons, sort of CIS teams with Dosha and those sort of guys, some of these players as well. So it's strange to me to see them fall off a cliff so much and to see the region struggling a little bit. But at the moment, I mean, as we move on to Overpass, it's still going to be a map that will still lend itself well, in my opinion, to the game style of Team FlipSide. So I think they can still be backing their chances of success on this map, despite potentially not having the best of games from their perspective on Mirage. It's a map in which there are lots of set smokes and executes available, particularly onto that A bomb site. Obviously, very commonly as well, teams like to move very quickly towards B, but from a FlipSide perspective, who tend to move a lot slower, I think it would still suit them. Do you agree?
I definitely agree. I think it's going to suit them. I think on FlipSide's side of things, I think World Edit really needs to come into his own here on this map. It's a map that really affords itself to an AWPer, and there are certainly plenty of open areas to take that engagement. And I think he really needs to step up here if FlipSide want to salvage some points out of this encounter.
The difficulty that I see though, and this is just from, obviously we're from Australia, we've had the opportunity to watch a lot of Counter-Strike, we've casted Australian Counter-Strike, American Counter-Strike, now dabbling our toes into the European scene, but in my experience watching World Edit, I would consider him to be a more passive style of AWPer, certainly when you compare him to other players such as perhaps your Kenny Yesses and those sort of star quality players. Olfmeister, when he has it, they're obviously very aggressive. Simple. I mean, that's another fine example. We actually used to play with these guys. But the point I'm making, though, is that when you come to AWPing on Overpass, normally one of the biggest strengths about that map from an AWPing perspective is that it allows you to mix up that aggression so well into your gameplay, because you can so easily push up towards whether it be A long or A statue / fountain, get a frag and then fall back, or you can even take that AWP down into the stairwell and go for that aggressive pick. And by the same token, you can play quite far back in the sights. And when you're mixing up that aggression and that passive play, it can make it very difficult for the terrorist side. You can often see them wasting a lot of utility grenades, a lot of time, a lot of energy, clearing out areas, trying to protect themselves from potentially an AWP which isn't even there. But when you've got an AWPer such as World Edit, I'm not sure if he's the sort of player that would be able to exploit that advantage in the map. I'm not sure whether he might just be perhaps just prefer to hold back in the sights in his own element where he feels a little bit more safe. I think he really needs to come out of his shell here if they're going to have a chance and really start making some inroads into this Panthers team and be a little bit more aggressive with that AWP.
Yeah, I would like to see him, as we said, just vary his play style a little bit. I mean, he might be a little bit more comfortable playing in the sights, that's correct, but if he's got the support of his teammates, getting him into those key positions there and really just changing around the way that he plays, I really feel as though you could find him being more effective in these rounds. Now, from what we've seen so far on Overpass, the really good CT sides are those that are good at varying their levels of aggression. And particularly early on in these encounters, we see them quite aggressive, pushed up. And what it does is it forces the T sides to really take their time in clearing out all the angles and being quite thorough in the way that they approach the site. So again, that just chews up time, that chews up utility potentially. And of course, we know how hard it can be to execute on a site with only a couple of seconds left. And given that the sites are so quick, so short a rotate time between the two, between A and B, it really places a lot of pressure on those Ts to make things happen.
I agree, most certainly. And I think that for a team perhaps such as Panthers at the moment, who are certainly feeling it, they're in their groove now, they'll be really happy with themselves. I can only imagine they're going to be really confident here in terms of their T side and getting onto those sites. I mean, it's interesting as well if you look back at some of the teams in which some of these players from Team Panthers have played alongside. They actually have played alongside some great talent. I mean, Polly used to play in LGB esports with Rain and Jacob. Obviously, these days they're more familiar for those in the scene who have seen the new FaZe lineup, or obviously the old Gamers 2 Kingwin team. But those guys are stars that these guys have had an opportunity to play with, and really, I think that when you're playing alongside that star potential, I think it really is an amazing experience. I think that you can learn a lot, not just from an experienced in-game leader, but from a talented star player. It can really, I guess, you can learn from them, you can learn off your teammates, and it can give you a lot of confidence in your own game. And certainly we're seeing Panthers at the moment back themselves. It looks as though the players will shortly go into the 9th round here, but I'm just really looking forward to this match. I think beforehand, Jim, I was expecting perhaps a 1-all draw, but I think off the back of that win there on Mirage, I'm going 2-0 Panthers.
Yeah, look, it's easy to make the prediction now that the first result has come in.
No, but it's to agree, but it's not as though the match is over, Jim. There's still a map to be played, so, you know, there's still 2 possibilities.
Yeah, look, going into this match, I certainly would have predicted that FlipSide would have made things a little bit more easy than they have, so I would have been more inclined to say that it was a 2-0 in favour of FlipSide.
Oh, you're an utter spanner.
Of course, I'm not going to do that. But
you won't predict that now? Oh, good on you, mate. That's good.
Of course, the time for predictions is over.
The time has come and gone, but we'll see this knife round.
Try and press yourself as some sort of master analyst that somehow repicks.
Mate, I'm just going to throw it out there that I think we've done a pretty good job in about 2 hours of preparation time. So, obviously factoring in sleep as well, including sleep. Obviously, the knife round is going underway now. We've seen some interesting knife rounds. Are we seeing them shoot each other on a knife round? I was going to say we've seen some interesting strategies, but I think this takes the cake. Shooting them, I don't think that was the real thing. I think they're going to have to re-simulate that knife round because that was a bit unfair, I think, of good old Blade to, ironically, not use his blade and shoot them in the head with his pistol.
You and your puns, I think before you said skirk on the lurk and I lost
That was hilarious. I loved it.
Knife round, take 2. Let's see what happens this round.
Let's see if all 5 players use their knives. I mean, that'd be ideal. I mean, as funnily as we joke about it, there was actually a knife round in the Australian CounterPit season, I kid you not, where one of the players from Team Legacy, a team that actually went over across to DreamHack Winter at the FaceIt Stage 3 LAN finals. One of the players from Legacy actually pulled out the pistol, shot a player on a knife round, and that was deemed legit. Thank you, Buster, if you're out there listening. Well done, mate.
Changing the meta of knife rounds.
It's okay. The other team didn't mind. They were trolling about anyway, and they had already been knocked out of contention, so they thought it was funny. But no, we have seen that happen in the past, is the point I'm trying to make. But have we actually seen a legit knife round happening now? I think we might have done so. It looks as though the players are just chatting to himself. Bondic pretty chilled out at the moment, saying relax, dudes. Interesting for me as well was to learn the fact that whilst Shara has obviously just signed for the team, effective from the 1st of January, the team had expressed interest beforehand in signing him, but he just wanted to make sure that his old team had a suitable replacement for him before he joined, and that, I think, is extremely admirable. But the point I was going to make is that Shara and Bondic actually played together back in A-Game in 2013. I didn't realise that until I started to do my research. So those guys have experience playing together. It certainly will help Shara to feel more comfortable and to fit in this FlipSide team. Maybe it just might take a little bit more time, though, until all 5 members are gelling as one. But definitely some experience and some history there amongst a couple of the players.
It always helps to have some sort of prior relationship with your teammates. But of course, we are live into this pistol round here, the second map in this best of 3. If you're just joining us, Panthers took the first map against all odds. Funnily enough, quite convincing. Like it was 16-9. So yes, by all means, that is a slobber knocking. But of course, we are live into this pistol round as we see just a really defensive spread coming in from FlipSide here, just slowly taking map territory, and World Edit making his way through mid. A really passive approach here from Panthers.
By the same, Panthers very defensive in the B side, and like you said, FlipSide very passive at the moment, which is probably what we've come to expect of them. But I must admit, questionable play from Panthers for me, because look at their equipment. None of them actually invested in a kit. So if that bomb is planted, it's going to make that retake quite difficult, because they'll need to get on that 10-second man fuse and make it happen. And at the moment, they are heading towards B, so this post-plant situation could be very real unless those CTs are able to put up some sort of resistance.
That is an anti-strat, by the way.
Well, the flashes and smokes have come in. You can see they're going for a double boost now to get some, I guess, elevation. Peeked into the site there, Mystic doing a good job of grabbing one head, but in the end it is FlipSide who are winning the day here. They have got 2 frags to 1. Having said that, Skirk has grabbed another one. He's been so proficient tonight from what we've seen in his pistol play, Deedle in particular, but showing he can do it as well with the USP. At the moment, though, we find ourselves in a 3-on-3. You can see Polly trying to retake and World Edit there. He's almost just baiting him out, because you can see that Bondic is hiding in water there. So great job by World Edit. At the moment, though, it will be Polly grabbing one frag before he is taken down. But as we said, with this timer ticking away, and none of the CTs with their kits trying to make it so difficult here, and Skirk, he's got 2 to contend with. He rips the head off one, but not going to be enough time here, surely. And he realises that now. You can see him, I think, realising just trying to save the armour as opposed to even trying to get that frag. But Why not do both, he says to himself as he does eventually take down Bondic, saves that 88 armor points as we move on to this next round, but it will be FlipSide starting out the stronger, and they had a good B execute there.
It was a great B execute, but I can't help but feel that was an anti-strat. If you saw that smoke and that grenade come in, it was perfectly positioned to not only smoke off the double stack, but then grenade them as they broke. So, for me, it was that sense of familiarity with their opponents that allowed them to take that round, as we said, that really just set the tone for things. And, of course, not having a kit really hurt them there in the final instance.
Well, that's right. And it's not as though Panthers haven't played much of Overpass. You only have to look at their recent results. They've played the map 3 times in their last 6 matches. So plenty of, I guess, track record and demos to speak of from a FlipSide perspective. You can see that actually Polly had invested into a stout that round, and his teammates had fully invested in pistol armor as well. So they were certainly hoping, they had a grand vision this round of winning this and really reasserting themselves in the match. But at the moment, FlipSide doing a good job of getting the opening frags. They have taken a little bit of damage, but more importantly, all 5 members still surviving, and a rotation will now come in from Panthers, but it's almost a little bit too late because FlipSide, they're already upon the bomb side, and Bondic, very good spot there from on top of the bomb box, does drop down Mystic at CT spawn, and all of a sudden Panthers find themselves locked out of the bomb site. We do see Mac drop, and it's just seemingly 1 by 1 at the moment. But Jim, I think this is a reversal from what we saw in Mirage, where we saw Panthers get off to the stronger start. They're up 5-0 at one point. Now it's FlipSide with the stronger start, so we get to really see how well Panthers do in terms of coming from behind here.
Yeah, what we've seen so far from FlipSide just indicates that they're a little bit more comfortable now on this Overpass map, which is kind of funny given that it really wasn't their pick in this best of 2 veto. So we will see them just try and find Skirk here. Of course, we have the advantage of knowing exactly where he is. And of course, he has that Deagle. We've seen him do a lot of damage with it before on Mirage. Just missing a few shots there, of course, being punished by World Edit. Found out in that B side. He won't take that Deagle into the next round. And FlipSide just successfully navigating that anti-eco.
Most definitely. I mean, you pointed out the fact that it wasn't FlipSide's map choice. Let's be real though, by the same token, I mean, given the way in which the vetoes are carried out, in which case each team gets to veto 2 maps before ultimately picking from the remaining pool of 3, by very virtue of the fact that they left it in the pool and didn't veto it, suggests that they do have some sort of inherent level of comfort. So I don't think they were too upset by the fact that this map came out, but at the moment, it's the CTs, or at least Blade, who should be upset the fact that he only got 1 frag there. And as Mac doubles up and Skirk grabs one, all of a sudden they find themselves in a man advantage situation. It's a 3-on-2. It was a 4-on-2, but Markloff did a good job there of trying to recover the situation somewhat. But you can see the CTs, they are picking up a few weapons to make something of this situation. A lot of pressure here on Shara, does a little bit of damage. But at the moment, though, it's still advantage Team Panthers, and they're just situated in the playground at the moment. But the only thing that they have on their mind at the moment is brutal murder as they try and take down Shara and Markloff. Shara's down to 46 points of health. And really, the challenge is getting that bomb, but as he shoots Mac, he actually doubles up, gets Mystic through the brown fence as well, and that'll do.
That'll do. As any form of frag, I'm sure he's going to take it, particularly when the bomb was down in such an awkward position in the playground. They really had to fight uphill to try and claim that bomb. But of course, you know, they navigated it successfully. They did lose 3 members, of course, but here they are, 3-0 up.
Yeah, that's still a win, though, for Panthers. I mean, they did so much damage, even though they didn't win the round, they'll be happy with that result. We can see moving on to the first gun round here, Jim. And are you surprised to see FlipSide taking their time, splitting up their forces?
Not at all, really. This is, I guess, a cornerstone of their T-side players, just how slow and methodical they are. We've seen this from quite a few teams, funnily enough. The same sort of play style, particularly those who have an older, more experienced in-game leader. It's really not an aggressive style that we see from these sorts of teams. There's a great flash there, allowing Blade to find the frag onto Polly and just open up a man advantage early on.
Yeah, great work there by Team Blade, showing that he can do it with the rifle as well as with his brain. Of course, perhaps you're referring to other in-game leaders such as God B, other experienced players which do have that same slow style of play. Starix as well when he is calling for Na'Vi. Fallen. So yeah, there's a few examples there, but at the moment we can see FlipSide. They've got that opening frag. It'll be interesting to see what they do with it, because you can see Panthers here actually taking quite an aggressive approach here. You can see Skirt there spotting out from mid, does get taken down by Bonnie with a nice double stack that did come in, so punished for that aggression. But it was curious to me. I actually liked that CT setup, actually trying to catch them off guard, I think, as opposed to just playing back in the sights and letting the T's come to you and overwhelming you by sheer force of numbers. I think they had a better chance in doing what they did. But ultimately, you can see that FlipSide now find themselves in a 4 versus 2. Off the back of getting 3 frags, they will now commit to that 8 bomb site. They still have plenty of utility grenades and Molotovs left, don't they, as they now move their way in. Paint does grab one, and for a second it looked a little bit sketchy there as poor old Blade got tagged down, but it's all left up to do here for Mac. He's grabbed one, needs to get 2 more though. You can see the Blade still lurking behind the bomb box, and Mac just peeking those angles, working the smoke, can't quite connect there onto World Edit, and with Blade so low as well, if he could connect to that, the chance of a clutch was ever so real for him. But as it is, FlipSide do a good job there of closing out that round. It was theirs to win from the start off the back of getting that opening frag there in the form of Blade. Great job here by FlipSide. They're really bouncing back well.
Yeah, if you managed to fell the man on full health, that clutch was made a lot easier, knowing that Blade was so low. But of course, now they are on an eco round here. Just some upgraded pistols. I think Pant's the only one that's actually invested in some form of body armor. But of course, stacking their forces towards these A toilets, and they do spot out someone early on. A really slow, drawn back approach from FlipSide here.
You said Pants. I assume you talked about Mystic, because Panthers would be the team in which they're in, Jim. They're all Pants.
I'm not too sure what you're referring to.
Jim's got a bemused look on his face. Of course, Mystic is the player with the armor in which Jim was referring, but we can see, like he said, very, very slow and methodical from FlipSide. And this always seems to work so much better when you're winning. It's when you're losing that you start to call into question this slow approach, because sometimes it looks as though you're moving without purpose. But when you're making the shots, as World Edit's doing at the moment, and Bondic follows suit shortly after, it all of a sudden looks so easy. They look like they know exactly what they're doing. I'd like to see perhaps some aggression coming out from Panthers, though, because that was really where they were doing so well on the CT side, wasn't it? In the previous map, where they were able to shut down FlipSide before they could get into their executes and before they could get started, Jim?
Yeah, they just are doing a good job at the moment. And as we see here, they're navigating these anti-ecos quite well so far, only losing 1 man as they approach this A site. And they are just going to try and stop Mystic from getting on any sort of run here, of course. He does take 1 with him before World Edit is able to take him down. And, of course, we see the other 2 CTs quite far away. They're on the B site. So, whilst the overlay might indicate that they're close to the A site, of course, we know how close these sites are together. But, of course, they're nowhere near to be found. If Skirk can find a frag here, though, I feel as though this would be a very, very successful eco.
He's quite a dynamic pistol player. We've seen him use the USP and DDoL to great efficiency. Now he's trying his hand at the CZ, so curious to see if he's just as talented with this pistol of choice as I think he actually just beat someone. So I'm going to go with yes as my answer to that, but in the end, FlipSide do a fantastic job of closing out that round. You can see that now pulled ahead to 5-0, but if you look at the economy from a terrorist perspective, they are absolutely balling in cash and Skrilla at the moment. Shara, whilst he's at the bottom of the scoreboard, he's done a great job in terms of surviving these rounds. He and Markloff, they've only got 2 deaths, so it's meant that they've got so much cash because they're not having to reinvest into weaponry and utility every single round, and it's just going to set them up well if they do get onto a losing streak here. They'll be able to buy for a few rounds to come just yet, whereas from a CT perspective, they've gone for a double AWP setup here, Jim, which is very, very expensive and a bit of a risk given that they don't have much money to come by.
Yeah, very risky investment given just how wrong it can go for them potentially. But of course, we see great position here from Polly. Does get flashed out as a result, but of course does take that first frag on the World Edit. So already they've put the pressure back onto FlipSide. So they really need to capitalise further here and just slow things down. FlipSide, that really slow, methodical approach might not work for them here against 2 AWPs in either site. Simply walking into those choke points is not going to work against an AWPer.
Well, that's right. We spoke at length, didn't we, in the pre-game before this map, saying how efficient it can be to AWP on overpass, just given the number of angles and the opportunity to mix up between aggressive play and passive play. But it's Bondic there who's catching Polly off guard, turning the tables on him, and all of a sudden, whilst he's not necessarily renowned for being an AWPer, his job with that rifle has found his team in a 4-on-4 situation. You can see the bomb has been recovered by Blade, but it's still at A long at the moment. Now, it can be quite difficult from a terrorist perspective to navigate all the way through to the B site, and I think at the moment, Shara is doing the best he can to try and sell some sort of a fake and allow his teammates to go A with potentially some less resistance on that side. Shara now backing off, but I think as they move up here, I don't know if they're going to catch Panthers off guard. Having said that, it's just Mystic inside, so potentially the fake has worked. Mystic goes down, all of a sudden Skirk at the bank, and Blade catches him off guard. They're fantastic read. I think you would have heard those footsteps there as Skirk repositioned himself from the CT stairs around to the bank, and Blade just capitalizing on that and shutting that round down. That little opening that Panthers had off the back of that early frag from Polly has just been eviscerated right there in front of their very eyes.
And speaking of small openings, FlipSide only had a really small opening to get onto that site, and they made it work. It was just the lapse in concentration from Mystic there that allowed them to get into the site, and of course, quite easily get that bomb down.
I mean, to Mystic's credit though, he did hold the site. I was a little bit more concerned about what Skirk was doing, but he was the member that actually rotated away from CT stairs around to bank. Now, I'm not sure if that was a deliberate plan to reposition himself at A. What I suspect, though, is that potentially he was biting on that fake that Shara threw towards the B side with just a few grenades. Now, the fact, if that's the case, of course, it's speculation, I'd actually be really, really surprised and a little bit disappointed because Shara actually didn't do much other than throw a few utility grenades. He didn't actually commit to the side. There was no fragging happening. It was just a nade or two. And if that was enough to cause the rotation, it just goes to show that I think Panthers were a little bit edgy at the moment. You can see that they have opted to buy this round. They really need some rounds on the board now, so it probably doesn't come as much as a surprise. But whereas last round, Jim, they had 2 AWPs, now they're having to go in the way of 5 rifles and 1 for mass.
Of course, no head armor either, so really scraping the bottom of the barrel, of course, as far as the bank goes. But for me, this is interesting because, of course, it was Panter's pick. So, I mean, whilst we haven't seen any promising signs from them so far, I can really only suspect that they've got something up the sleeve on Terrorist side.
Well, I hope for their sake they do. Their track record is actually pretty abysmal if you look at last night's result where they were actually comprehensively beaten 16-2 on Overpass by SK. So I'm not sure what they've turned around in 24 hours, at least in their heads, to warrant choosing this map. But for the time being, I'm not going to doubt them just yet. We've seen that when they are firing, when they do have confidence and when they're aggressive, they can take it to this FlipSide team. It's just at the moment, they're being a little bit too passive for my liking, and they're just allowing FlipSide to sit up. You can see the Blade has fallen down though, so better signs so far. This will now be a B attack coming in though. Most of the aggression from FlipSide so far has been towards A, so how well will the B defenders do? Very well is the answer. Mac does double up there. You can see Paint well positioned to actually help his team. Actually, one member there, Marklov, actually running straight underneath his crosshair. But in the end, he does get punished and Paulie seals the deal. So great job at B, and that will surely scare FlipSide away and send them back towards the A side.
Yeah, look, if I had one criticism of Panthers at the moment, it would be just that change in approach on the CT side between Mirage and now Overpass. On Mirage, they were willing to get themselves in a position to take an early frag or just get that early advantage. At the moment, they're playing completely passive and just allowing FlipSide to gain map territory and really dictate the pace of gameplay, which is, I guess, a step away of what they were doing on Mirage.
Yeah, and a perfect example, if we can look at the overlays, look at Polly's positioning at the moment. Now, Polly has an AWP. There are so many possibilities, but what's he doing? He's doing the stock standard approach of just opening down long, spotting the usual line, spots one, and now potentially falling back. Now he will re-engage with the situation, but that versatility and that dynamic play isn't there at the moment from Panthers. So I think this young, inexperienced team still showing some signs of that at the moment. Having said that, though, Bonding, you can't criticise their fragging potential at the moment because he's absolutely ripped the head off Mystic, who's on that double stack, and really punishes Skirk as well, who opted to stay and fight instead of falling back. Luckily for Panthers, Paulie's there to save the day. Does get 2, converts on the 3rd as well. Nice frag there, suspects that a 4th member could be moving in their way up A long, and we'll now know that information as fact as he hears the footsteps, and here's one of his teammates falling down as well. So we find ourselves in a 2-on-2. The bombing is down in the toilets though, Jim, so as Paint drops Blade, it's all to do here for World Edit.
And of course, 45 seconds to do it within too, but Polly is really close to World Edit here, and we'll just catch him out, not looking in the right direction. Of course, Panthers pick up their 2nd round, and more importantly, pick up their 2nd round in a row. So if they can start to build momentum here, of course, they did lose quite a few members of their CT team, so that investment, they're going to need to reinvest in Colts, armor, etc., and utility, but their winning bonus isn't quite going to cover that just yet. But it's good signs if they can string a 3rd round together here and then continue with a 4th, because at the moment, FlipSide are looking strong and they're still able to buy AWPs and AKs and utility.
I like this better though from them. Look at Panthers, now they're going aggressive, and we say that and actually does catch FlipSide off guard, so that was good in that sense. Skirk, they're trying to really keep that man advantage going, but forcing the issue too hard there and Blade punishing him. So there's a fine line between being aggressive and being over-aggressive, and I think Panthers just learnt that hard lesson there as they got the first frag and then subsequently lost 3 members at the hands of FlipSide. So we find ourselves now in a 2-on-2. Mac does a good job of catching Markloff off in the stairs there. You can see that potentially he was just trying to secure that rotation and make sure that no one was pushing down the stairs from A. In the end, was caught off guard at B, and all left up to do here for Bondic and Shara. Bondic, though, he's really been firing so far from what we've seen here on Overpass. Stepped up his game to another level after Mirage. He's got 9 frags at the moment, leading the way for his team. We've seen him make a few vicious headshots in the last couple of rounds, and with 100 points of health here, he'll be their go-to man as they move towards the B side.
And of course, Polly just doing his best to scope things out on that A site. Now, if Matt can actually get the frag here, it leaves Shara. I'm going to channel my best toss pot impression here. Bleeding internally as he makes his way into the site, funnily enough. And he'll navigate around, of course. Not much HP to work with there. Nearly fragging Polly. But, of course, they bring up their 3rd round in a row and start to build a little bit of that momentum. But, of course, only having 2 members of their CT side survive is really putting a lot of pressure still on their economy. As you see, only Polly with $5,000 in the bank, the rest of them just scraping through.
Having said that, they'll certainly prefer winning these rounds in tight situations, wouldn't they, over losing these rounds? And they've done a good job of turning the momentum. That's something that we did notice on Mirage, in which a team, once they were able to win a round, they actually kept that momentum for at least a period of time. So there wasn't too much back and forth. There was a lot of teams able to really string rounds together, and Panthers proving just that as Mystic opened the exchange there onto Blade, catching him off guard there with that aggressive stairs play as Blade was trying to move into the toilets. We can see now Panthers really having more confidence in their gameplay. They're pushing up, they're taking those duels. This is what we saw from them very early on, and they seem to stray away from Mystic in the end. He'll be happy that he's equipped the A4 because he used 29 bullets there to get that frag, and in the end does go down. But Bondic doubles up there with that Jalil. We find ourselves now in a 2-on-3. Still going to be very difficult for FlipSide because they obviously are down a man and don't have much in the way of map territory, but at least it is somewhat more of a chance than that potential 2v5 in which they looked at only moments ago. They're now moving their way towards A long. You can see that on the overlay, Polly is the sole defender at the moment on the B side. And I'm actually surprised to see Paint sticking around B for as long as he did, given the fact that Mac is actually pushed up in T-spawn. Now, I'm not sure if he's lagged out or whether he's just trying to catch someone off guard, but he's really not doing much on the overlay at the moment, Mac. So essentially, we're looking at a 2-on-2 situation here. I can only think that the communication isn't on point because with 30 seconds left, of course, the terrorists have to be executing onto a site. Mac needs to be supporting his teammates, and as a result of not helping them, it will be Polly and Paint that are really going to have to do all the work. And at the moment, as Polly goes down and Paint grabs one, but ultimately pays the ultimate price in the form of his life there, Mac, the man who was lurking in T-spawn, doing absolutely nothing at all, unfortunately for his team, will now be forced to try and win this 1v1. You can see the Bondic, he's taken the gamble here, Jim. He's run from A to B, but I'm not sure he's going to have the time.
He's not going to have time.
Oh, of all the ways for Mac to win the round, he's actually going to get this paying off for him by the fact that he hidden T-spawn. That there's just no justice in the world for poor old Bondic. But in the end, that was his own decision to run towards B. That was, I mean, he can only blame himself for that, not calculating the time correctly, but Mac, mate, you need to help your team. You can't be sitting in T-spawn the whole round.
Yeah, I can only say that I'd expect more from an experienced player in Bondic. Complete misread there in terms of how far away he actually was from that B site. Pays to know your rotation times, kids. As we do see some early aggression in the connector there. Skirk actually picking up a double. So whilst he gets away with 8 HP, he does give his team a slight advantage and might be able to pick up a 3rd frag here. We'll try and do so. Of course, the pre-fire not going to work there. World Edit just stepping and making mincemeat of him. That now leaves a 3v3 and still a minute 25 to play in the round.
Well, that's right. All the terrorists have regrouped, though, off the back of those frags that had gone down very early on in the round. But look at the time in which the frags are happening. There's still a minute 15. There was a minute 20 a second ago when the frags were happening. Them occurring much earlier in the round because Panthers are really bringing their game and applying themselves to FlipSide, and they're catching them off guard as opposed to waiting to when there's 30 seconds left on the clock and FlipSide go to execute. At the moment, though, FlipSide have done a good job of getting that 3rd frag for themselves for the round, so all of a sudden Polly is the lone man defending the A side. Paint, of course, still locking down the B side, not knowing that they're executing, but he will now. Polly will communicate that to him. He does grab one, converts on the second, spots out the 3rd as well. He hears the footsteps. He's looking left, he's looking right, he's looking up, and he converts onto Shara.
Good golly.
Fantastic job there by the man. 1 versus 3, essentially, in that site on his own, and he comes up huge for his team. Polly, the AWPer, the in-game leader, the player who has previously played alongside Rain and Yakum, showing that he can also possess that same fragging potential that those guys had previously.
One word to describe that. Mint.
Mint.
That's an Australian word if ever I heard one. Mint. But of course, winning them the round, and this is 5 in a row now for Panthers, so they're really starting to get some momentum going. And this is what we said. This is what they needed to do, was to vary the tempo a little bit as CTs, and they're world edit with a fantastic headshot there to open things up on the round. But they're varying the tempo a little bit. I like this from Panthers, albeit some great work there from World Edit to slow things down, to slow their advances. They were looking right in this at the moment, and will need to continue.
You're right, and I mean, as a perfect example, look how cautious Markloff was just there, where he's clearing out the stairs. All of a sudden, there's a minute left on the clock, and the T's haven't advanced up very fast. So that just goes to show there's flow-on effects here when you're being aggressive. It means that in subsequent rounds, Terrace will start wasting time clearing all these angles, and there's so many of them on overpass, clearing them out, using nades, wasting nades essentially, trying to make sure that they have safe passage as they get closer towards the bomb side. And now all of a sudden, flip side, they're going to need to up the tempo. 45 seconds left. They do have a man advantage, but they need to get a bit of a move on here. They're moving towards the A site. It will be Mac and Mystic Jim that are going to be the ones tasked with defending it.
And they're just sitting in this A site, waiting for this impending site hit, as they do make their way up long there into the APC region. Great trade there from Markelov. In fact, not actually a trade, not allowing that CT and Mac to actually get the step on his teammates. Now, of course, Skirk and Paint are completely the opposite side here, and they're just simply falling back to try and save their guns.
That's right. I mean, whilst they have won 5 rounds in a row, as you pointed out, and something that we suggested was that this is something, a consistent theme. Bondi, they're punishing one, does get the second. No, can't quite convert, but his position's known. But those 5 rounds in which they won, I was just trying to say to round off that point, they were very close rounds. So you can see the economy was always strapped for cash. So as Paint ultimately should fall here, and does, Paint from Panthers, that's a bit of a tongue twister, it means that Panthers will be looking at an eco round here to try and get that economy flowing in and stimulate that money. Because whilst they had won 5 rounds, they really didn't have that opportunity to build up that bank.
That dank bank you speak of.
I love the dank bank.
But nonetheless, Panthers, after a miniature comeback, surrender 1 round. And will now find themselves, as we said, on an eco, that city economy, really fragile. Despite them winning 5 in a row, they were very, very close rounds.
But I think in their minds, you just see Mystic get a nice frag there onto World Edit. Bondic, though, does take down Poly to try and, I guess, assert some more reason to this round with the stronger weaponry and utility. It should be going the way of the T's and looks to be so at the moment. But I think almost that loss in the previous round by Panthers should hopefully almost solidify in their mind that the secret to success is aggression. Because they won 5 rounds in a row, being very aggressive, forcing the issue in stairs, forcing the issue towards the A fountain and A long regions. Whereas ultimately when they changed back to a passive style, they lost that very next round. So I hope in their minds they recognise that. I think that the captain and the in-game leader, both Skirk and Polly respectively, should be communicating that to themselves at the moment, and really the downtime that they do have in this anti-eco or eco round in the case of Panthers. It's almost essentially like a free tactical pause for them in that sense, because their chances of winning the round are quite remote, and they can still have that opportunity in the minute to minute 50 or 55 that they potentially have to talk things through. So I hope we see some aggression from them next round.
Yeah, they just strayed away from what was working for them. Obviously, that headshot from World Edit was a game changer.
Oh, that'll do.
That'll do. I'll take that.
That helps.
But they need to get back to what was working for them. And as I said, it was strange that they went away from it so early on the map in Overpass, because it was working so well for them in Mirage. They were really disrupting any sort of flow that FlipSide could get themselves into.
Yeah, another subtle change which I might point out as well is the fact that Markloff actually has the open hand instead of World Edit at the moment. Now, I'm going to acknowledge and preface up front that I'm not sure if that's just because World Edit had just died and Markloff had recovered their gun. I can't quite remember at the start of the rounds exactly who had that open hand, but the point I'll make is that obviously he's widely regarded as one of the greatest Counter-Strike 1.6 players of all time because he revolutionised AWP play with his aggressive playstyle. But these days, he really plays the role of a rifler to fit into the framework and structure that Blade does bring to the team. And I think the evidence of that is the fact that he has now thrown that AWP, shared the wealth and given that AWP back to World Edit and opted to stick with the AK. So it was just the fact that he recovered it last round, has gone back to that AK this round. And FlipSide, they'll be looking to close out this half quite strongly. They've already got 8 T rounds on the board, already secured the first half in their favour, no matter what happens from here. But of course, they're going to be hungry for more rounds. They don't want 8, they want 10.
Any sort of platform to take them into that second half with, I guess, the CT side to play. We've seen some, as we said, some really good CT sides come out from overpass before, but just that aggression now. Mystic actually able to pick up that frag onto Shara. Shara being bullied away from that B site, and oh, the timing on that smoke just popping. Bondic actually getting the headshot through the smoke onto Mystic. That spray paying dividends for him, and he'd be disappointed to go down in such a fashion after collecting that gun. And now we see a 4 versus 3 in favour of FlipSide here. And as we quickly look at the overlay, they are still fairly spread out. Of course, they do have 2 members in that B connector. Bondic just doing his best and recognising the aggression here, and we'll need to clear out any sort of choke points before they go in. But that MP9 is doing some work. He's looking for a second frag here. Blade is going to try and get the frag, returning onto Mac, of course. Revenge frags coming in left, right, and centre. That grenade just squelching Polly there. And Bondic now just trapped in short. Needs to try and open something up for his teammate there. But of course, Paint is quite low, 19 HP, sitting at the jungle area there. World Edit, of course, needs to go and try and plant this bomb. His teammate needs to cover him here. Of course, they choose to focus their attention onto Monster, and now a lot of work to do for Paint. 19 HP to work with. The bomber's gone down, and World Edit recognises that it could be close. His teammate will surely have been communicated that flash just doing enough to distract him while World Edit steps out and makes that round his own with the Tech 9.
Yeah, it was very close there, wasn't it, with some of those trade frags that were coming in from a CT perspective. It looked as though that member in the mid-con area potentially could have doubled up with that MP9, but wasn't to be, as ultimately I think he ran out of ammo and was forced to resort to his pistol play, and I think that cost him his life. We can see FlipSide now 9-5 up. I still like the aggression, though, that we did see from Panthers, to be honest. I think that really, ultimately, whilst they lost the round, it was close because of that aggression, catching one member off guard. It always helps when a terrorist, in the case of Bondic, does shoot someone with a headshot through smoke. That certainly will help the terrorist cause, as it did in that case. But as we move into this last round, you can see World... Oh, yeah, definitely. And that frag certainly helps as well, as Mystic has gone down. So things just seemingly going the way of FlipSide at the moment. I think potentially it might be easier, though, for Panthers on the terrorist side when they're better positioned to be able to control their economy. Obviously, with the cheaper weapons, the ability to force the issue a little bit better with Tech 9s and armor when you are low on money can make it work for you. And really, they don't have to make a comeback here, because at 9-5 down, soon to be 10-5, unless Matt can pull off some sort of miracle scout-like performance. I'm just thinking, channeling his inner Pyth. If you watch that clip from when Pyth was in the NA Mirage, jump scouting at B with all those sick headshots, I think Matt he's going to have to channel something like that to put up some sort of resistance. But ultimately, he does go down. Paint now the last member alive, and I will give my big toe if he pulls this one off, Jim.
Well, don't put it out there unless you're willing to actually come up with
He's got one frag. Can I retract it? I'm getting a little bit nervous now.
He's getting those vibes that he could potentially do this. Of course, the Molotov is actually going to stop them from getting into the B side. At least 2 of them anyway. They don't really have any regard for it, of course, but trading out quite well there in the end. 10-5 to score. FlipSide mounted a comeback after being surprised on Mirage by Panthers, which, funnily enough, was FlipSide's pick. Of course, Overpass being Panthers' pick. So that's probably the most surprising thing for me, is that they're winning each other's picks so far.
Yeah, it's surprising. I mean, with these sort of teams playing as much Counter-Strike as they do, perhaps the fact that they have a deep map pool, unlike what we see in Australia, our region that we're from, of course, maybe not as surprising. But key things for me in that first half were, one, the fact that Panthers, I think, struggled very early on in the map to bring that aggression into their play. And I think that when you're down 6-0, it's almost too late by that point, because you can see them fighting with their backs against the wall whilst they strung 5 rounds together. Terrorists had money to play with for the entire half, it felt like. And the CTs, as soon as they lost one round, it reset their economy. I think they needed to recognise what won them so many rounds of Mirage and bring that aggressive tempo very early on in the match, instead of when their backs are against the wall. But from a FlipSide perspective, I mean, hats off to Bondic. He really stood up, and also Blade, the in-game leader there. There's just a pause, so fear not, this is not live, I do not believe, as FlipSide are trying to pause and restart this round, and they will do that now. But from a CT perspective, just to finish that off, Bondic and Blade really stepped up in the freighting department, but more importantly, I really like the way that they were able to control, I guess, the lead in which they had. Sometimes we see teams, some of the American teams, unfortunately, hashtag NACS, have been struggling recently in terms of closing out anti-eco rounds and winning rounds in which they should. But from a FlipSide perspective, it just felt as though that the structure in which Blade has implemented within the team definitely helps to keep those rounds clean and to close out rounds in which they should be winning. And I think it just made FlipSide's advantage more convincing in that regard. They're really well positioned here, Jim, as we move into the second half.
That is correct. They are well positioned here. Of course, FlipSide are in the position of power. They can dictate the tempo if they so choose. And we will wait for this one to go live. I do believe they are just asking for that unpause here. And, of course, we will now see some second half action. FlipSide need to win this out if they're going to share the points tonight. Of course, with Panthers being in the driver's seat, having won FlipSide's pick on Mirage, they are in prime position to take maximum points from this encounter and perhaps surprise a few people along the way.
Well, potentially it could be FlipSide here who are surprising Panthers because they're the ones pushing up very aggressively towards A, but look at this at the same token. Panthers moving very aggressively towards B, so it could be a retake called into action here. If Panthers do commit to the site, you can see 3 members there bonding. Spots out Polly, spots out another one at stairs, but he'll quickly be greeted by a few more figures as they race up the stairwell there. You can see Mac, he's closely followed by all 3 of his surviving teammates, and that information that'll get relayed onto FlipSide tactics, so you can see the rotation coming in here, and I can't help but feel that FlipSide, if they play this well and don't get too greedy in CT spawn here, Shara and Blade, they should only need to wait for their teammates to get the flank done. But having said that, both of those CT defenders have gone down, and it allows Panthers really to turn around and take down those 2 flanking members. They've dropped one, they do drop the second there. Great recovery from Panthers, but FlipSide, they needed to get that sandwich happening there. They had 2 in front in the bomb site, and they had 2 coming from behind. Of course, those members who had pushed up aggressive A-long earlier on, who then subsequently became flankers in that situation. The timing was not right there from FlipSide, but good work by Panthers in bringing that aggression.
And bring that aggression they did. For me, the binks, that was the difference. How many times did we see a FlipSide member on critically low HP? And Skirk actually aggressively pushing into the sewer there, taking the head of Bondic early on, that double stack not being quite as effective as they would have liked. Paint, though, takes Blade down through that squeaky door as now they are collapsed on in water there. That Deagle of Markelov complementing the 5-7 of Shara. Now, 3 versus 2 will play out. Of course, the T's are very defensive here, though. They are just waiting for further pushes.
That's right, and a push will come, and it is greeted by a deafening headshot there as World Edit with a nice 1B.
Very
does
tasty.
drop Mystic, recovers his gun, but I'd suggest to him that he just keeps using that Deagle because he's shown great proficiency with it so far with 1 frag this round, but also obviously in his recent track record, very, very dangerous with pistol in hand, but so too Markloff. You'd almost back him with any gun in this sort of situation. It's a 2-on-2 now. You can see that the CTs though are quite split up, so it's important that at least one of those members does gather some information to make it a bit easier for themselves. Overpass the rotation times, whilst the bomb sites are on top of each other, it can still take some time. So Markloff here, as the bomb makes its way towards A, for his sake, he needs to get an early spot and an early read that potentially they're coming their way. Having said that, we can see that Polly and Mac have regrouped in the mid connector. They've decided on B, and from a World Edit perspective, it'll be a matter of can he adjust his crossfire to take into account those multiple angles. He does just that. Watches towards the sandbags. Marklov's rotating now, but World Edit can't quite get the drop there. They had the peace of mind to check the monster canal. Great work by Mac. Panthers still not willing to give up just yet. They want to fight to live another day. You can see Marklov, the last surviving member, in a 1-on-2. He knows that Polly would be tagged down quite low, and Mac knows exactly where he is as a result of jumping and spotting his little noggin over the box.
Yeah, World Edit would surely be annoyed with himself having the jump on those 2 players, not able to convert any of the frags. Obviously, the aim punch just getting the better of him in that situation, but nonetheless, should have converted that first frag with a headshot, and that's the burden of having to watch 2 angles at once.
Yeah, I must admit, it's always easier said in hindsight, but I didn't like the positioning of World Edit. Irrespective of whether he got the frag or not, if the terrorists had decided to go A, I mean, that's probably the furthest rotation time that you could hope for or ask for in the B site, given that he was at that end of the monster canal. I would have liked to see him positioned closer to the B site to give himself some more cover and to allow him, if he needed to get towards the A bomb site. But as it is, FlipSide here, forced to eco. They're getting a little bit antsy, though, for my liking. You can see them forcing the issue. Having said that, who am I to doubt them because it's worked for them? They've got 2 frags here. It's another 3-on-3, so nothing coming easy for Panthers at the moment. And you can see with the guns that they've recovered, Jim, off the back of Panthers investing so heavily, Bondic and Shara both have AKs at the moment. You can see that from a terrorist perspective, it's 2 AKs versus 2 AKs. It's 3 versus 3. This is going to be tight for me.
They are going to work their way back towards this B site, though, so almost running back into the Lion's den. As that perfectly timed flash push did see them collect Some guns for their effort. Great work from Shara, picking up the first frag onto Polly in short there. And we'll pick up the second as well, so he's taking the bomb down and being able to retreat into that pit. As Mac doesn't actually spot him out at all. In fact, Shara still survives, and now Blade is going to try and get the jump on him here. If he can get that frag, of course, a lot of pressure being placed back onto Panthers. He's just opting to sit in a bomb spot, and they know this. They have information. He's not made it out. But he does get the headshot onto Blade. Does get the second as well, so that aim punch really just destroying all hope that FlipSide had. It looks so good for them. Some great work being done in that site, but of course, ultimately, not coming up with the goods.
A fantastic play over there for the 1-on-3. Something very subtle that I want to point out very quickly, though, that I loved. After Bondic recovered that AK, he actually ran back towards the A site, recognising that he was low on HP, and actually gave the gun away to Blade to give themselves a better chance of success that round. Ultimately, we saw FlipSide losing out to a fantastic 1-on-3 by Mac, but I loved the play. Very smart, very mindful of the situation. World Edit, they're doing a good job of going aggressive with the AWP, gets the opening frag there onto Polly, and it's going to really slow down, I think, Panthers' approach here, because already Mac is hesitant to really show himself at all at the playground, and the rest of the terrorist team are quite spread apart as well. So, good work by World Edit. You can see he's now backtracked, repositioned himself. That's exactly what we spoke of. That's what we wanted to see from World Edit, and he's delivering in this CT half so far.
And speaking of deliveries, from Mystic with love into that B side, he does pick up Shara and just cause a rotation now from some of the CTs towards that B side. As you can see, they do have a man now in heaven that has to focus his attention on helping those two guys in B. Really no commitment coming out from Panthers here, though, so good work from them already attracting the rotation, but more importantly, just holding it for the moment and not really overcommitting just yet. They are going to try and scope things out. I do believe it is Mac that's making his way up mid towards that A site. We'll try and catch potentially any of the CTs getting aggressive there. Though Blade is lucky to escape with his life. Only 19 points of health remaining. And they're going to try and rework this B side as World Edit sits on A with that AWP.
That's right. You can see the rest of his teammates, though, are well positioned at B. So as Mystic works his way out the monster canal, doesn't spot anyone yet. That in itself is information that he'll relay to his team. You can see, though, with the advantage of the overlay, that he's ever so close to seeing them. Eventually he gets one, does get the second. Good conversion there. That'll really open up the side here. The bomb, it will get planted now. FlipSide, they're going to find themselves under a lot of pressure. They're yet to win a round in this second half, and now their backs against the wall again. They find themselves in a 4-on-2, and surely, Jim, the objective here would be to save with World Edit rocking out with an AWP, and only Bondic with any chance really of making something happen with the M4A1S he has in hand, and no kit.
No kit. Don't be a loser. Buy a diffuser. That's my official advice to all the players starting out there. But of course, they are now going to save their weapons and try and make them hold out for at least another round. That AWP is going to be instrumental. World Edit is able to really push things around the way he likes once he has it in his hand. So I like FlipSide's chances if they save that. Of course, not able to do so. Of course, Bondic there getting the trade frag, but I don't think he was able to pick up that AWP as a return. So that is a heavy penalty to pay for FlipSide, and they're allowing Panthers to edge closer.
Most definitely. I mean, every round that ticks over, they're getting more and more confident. They're getting more and more money. So it just allows them more freedom in terms of the aggression that they play. Less, I guess, fear of dying, knowing that they can still invest in the next round. We can see the FlipSide just had that M4A1S, which was saved by Bondic, and the rest of the teammates are going to have to go just with pistols. Having said that, though, World Edit does a good job somehow of catching Mac off guard. I'm not sure why he wasn't aware of the threat that could have been stairs. Potentially it's because his teammate's skirt is actually in stairs and hadn't cleared it out before he progressed that far, and Bondic capitalizes on that. I think two members here going down without any sort of resistance or retaliation from Panthers. Mystic has opened up the B side, but really they don't need to be on their guard here to close out this round. Having said that, Bondic has got his second, so we find ourselves now in a 3-on-2. Man advantage in favour of the less equipped, or initially less equipped FlipSide. We can see they now have recovered weapons, so they all have rifles to speak of. Mystic doing a good job. The young up-and-coming star gets his triple for the round, but look at that bomb placement. It's under lock and key with Bondic and Blade at the moment. They've got it near T-spawn. The terrorists now have almost switched positions. They're coming from the CT side. The CTs are coming from the T side. What can they do? You can see Blade well positioned. Bondic almost seemingly baiting for his teammate, trying to help Blade catch them off guard. And as both T's come through this side canal, Will Paint be aware of the threat of Blade? They do throw a flash over the top. They do catch him off guard. Good flash, good teamwork. They now only have one member to contend with. Bondic has taken down Mystic. All left up to Paint. Paint does take him down though. Fantastic word there from Panthers. They now move ahead. They tie the scores 10-all. Fantastic post-round, or I guess end-round situation there for the guys.
For me, that round was all due to Mystic's great work. He managed to open up that B site and really just steady the ship once that bomb had been down. Obviously, he didn't quite get the frag at the end there, but nonetheless was able to position his teammate quite well. And they worked quite well, flashing each other, getting Blade to surrender that bomb quite easily and surrender that angle advantage that he had as a result of being in the tracks there. As we do see Mac open up a frag onto World Edit here. So already FlipSide are on the back foot. Of course, we do see them investing into this round and paying a heavy price already. They are able to get that trade onto Mac though, so at least the ledger has been squared there. But nonetheless, really not too much of a commitment coming out of Pant just yet. As you can see, they are still fairly deep in the map.
It looks as though the intent perhaps is to head towards B, because Mystic has had some success opening up that site. He is the entry fragger on the team, the star player, as we said, named by Red Bull as one of the talents to look out for this year. They picked out 5 players. He was the only Norwegian player in which was selected. So a lot of promise and a lot of potential on his shoulders at the moment. He is delivering on the scoreboard, has 17 frags, the most for his team, but Bondic has been doing his lion's share of the work as well from a FlipSide perspective. So it's been the battle of some young guns. We do see Panthers moving with a little bit more intent and purpose now onto this B-side. Paint, I should say, throwing a Molotov there into water, just trying to flush out a CT spot. Shara takes him down. Good methodical way of clearing out that B-side, and he's rewarded for that effort there as Paint does eventually succumb to the hands of Blade with a nice trade frag there. And we see Panthers here forced to try and hold off this retake. They find themselves in a 2-on-3 situation, and with both terrorists positioned at sandbags here, Jim, it could be quite difficult for them.
But they have redistributed themselves there. Polly actually picks up a frag on the monster tunnel. Markelov finds that trade quite well, and Skirk's actually repositioning himself quite smartly here, but he's not. He's going to get heard here. Markelov using his headphones quite well, but that diffuser's been stuck. Blade using his advantage there, recognizing that he was quite far away from that bomb. Great work from them. They pull ahead, but of course financial losses are going to be heavy.
Oh, a misplay there from Skirk though. Ultimately, I'm not talking about the fact that he lost the round. I mean, that was always going to be tough. But after the bomb was defused, he didn't step out and still get that trade frag onto the diffuser. Blade only had a few points of health, and even though it wouldn't have won them the round, that was already secured and decided. It would have meant that Blade would have had to reinvest, and from a CT perspective, when they've lost 5 rounds in a row up until that point, you need to keep the financial pressure on them. Skirk needed to be hunting for that frag. As it is, Blade keeps his gun, doesn't need to invest, and Panthers really back to business as usual. They've slowed down the pace. 5 AKs or 4 AKs and an AWP to speak of. Polly rocking out at the moment. Of course, he is the in-game leader and AWPer for his team. And really, he's just keeping an eye on the proceedings at A at the moment, whilst Paint and Mystic try and apply some pressure on B, where they've already had some success so far this half.
And they'll be looking to continue that success as well. But a really, really slow, methodical approach coming out from Panthers. As you can see, they're just holding the choke points and content to do so. FlipSide, on the other hand, just happy to hold and let the timer run down and really make the T's try and make the first moves in this round. As we've seen some tense moments here. This is 10-11 FlipSide Tactics just having the slight advantage here, but they are starting to make their way up across the map and press this Panthers team.
Well, you suggest that they're happy to hold, but if you were to look at their faces through those visors, they're grimacing at the moment because they know that this is a hard-fought battle. 11-10, as you suggest, but it's so crucial for FlipSide that they can win this round and convert what would be the second round in a row to really fortify their financial state. You can see Mystic pressurizing the B-side again, going in solo, gets one frag, can't quite get the second, but look at the damage she has still done onto Markelov. 8 points of health, so he is bleeding internally, as Tosspot would once say, and Polly decides to shoot his teammate. Has a bit of a brain phase. Not the best idea there, Polly, to shoot Skirk with your AWP, but in any case, that's a much better idea.
That's better.
Keep your crosshair on the sides of the CTs as he takes down World Edit. That makes up for his previous mistake, but in the end, he will still go down. It's a 3-on-3 post-plan situation. You can see all 3 members of Panthers here set up in toilets. I think that it is Paint trying to create another angle to contend with, but by the time he runs around to long, it's going to be too late here. Blade sticking the defuse. Great work by FlipSide. Not so good there by Polly, shooting his teammate, I must say. I think that's a fair assessment.
That's a fair assessment, of course. Did a lot of damage to his teammate there. Just by shooting him in the side. Some confusion, some pressure starting to get to this younger Less experienced Panthers side, of course. Having won the first map, they're on the precipice here of taking a 2-0 over FlipSide and taking maximum points from missing counter. They're still in it. They're not out of it just yet, but they have forced the issue with this buy here.
I think pressure's spot on. I think it's perhaps some nerves that we're seeing from these young guys, because now they find themselves on a round in which they can't afford to buy, so they knew the importance of last round, and in a 3-on-3 with the bomb down, surely you'd normally back the terrorists, especially with players of this skill level, of this caliber. Unfortunately for them, they weren't able to hold it off, and FlipSide did a great job of retaking, and now FlipSide in the driver's seat. Bondic leading the way, 27 frags, and Mystic for what seems to be the 11th time potentially in this half, even though we haven't played that many rounds, he opens up the B side. That's how frequently and how easily he's making it look at the moment. But Markloff with a good double, trades it there, Jim.
He takes both AKs too. That's really important, as they're now forced to go onto this A site with pistols. And as we can see, that bomb is just making its way through the water there. Great work from Bondic. Just getting that bomb down, of course, sealing the deal. 13 rounds now for FlipSide Tactics, and pressure is really starting to mount on this young Norwegian side.
When we look at the scoreboard and you see how each team has been able to string together 4 to 5 to 6 rounds at a time, probably the biggest thing that I would read into that would be that both of these teams, when they have a lot of money to play with, are really good at exploiting it and controlling the enemy's economy. I think that's normally the biggest indicator when you see teams so proficient at winning so many rounds together in a row. But the difficulty that they're having by that very same token is when they don't have much money, teams are struggling at the moment to force the issue and to win these rounds out, and that's the position that Panthers find themselves in now. They do have 5 rifles, but not much to go by in the way of utility. Perhaps a few Molotov grenades that they can, if they are smart about it, place towards that B side to try and flush out a few CTs, make it a little bit easier to progress into that site, because certainly that looks to be the intent at the moment with all 5 members of the terrorist team positioned at the B. And as we speak, the Molotovs and smokes will come in. Mystic again. Can he get the job done? Unfortunately for his sake, he cannot this time, but at least his teammates there to put up some sort of resistance. They get one. Markloff though, he's angry. He's grabbed one. Paint with a good trade frag again. Another 3-on-3. These rounds are close. Shara drops the bomb. The newcomer to the team, and World Edit also chimes in. It's all left up to do for Mac. He's done it once before, but not to be this time. 14-10. FlipSide pull ahead, trying to come away with some points in this evening's match.
And look at the money situation here on Panthers. They are barely able to force a buy out of it. In fact, they have to if they want to force the issue and win in regular time. I would have been more of a proponent of saving that round, but of course we see some great pubmasters work from Bondic leaving spawn. They have forced the issue here, so they will try and at least take this in regular time, it would seem, and they are just making their way so aggressively through the mid connector there. Mystic connects that Tech 9 with Blade there, and again, just making their way onto these sites quite quickly. In fact, this change in tempo is really working for Pant, as they do now face only 2 remaining CTs, and as we can see, they are trapped at A long.
Well, that's right. I think it's a deliberate play here from the FlipSide team. They're just trying to at least clear out one bomb site so that they can at least potentially focus their eyes and sights on one side. They know that it's not going to be A now as the time ticks away. It will be B, but with the positions now, they'll certainly be saving those rifles into the next round. I love the change of tempo, but also the fact that it was almost a split aggression. There was members moving very quickly through the stairwell there. There were members moving onto the B site. Mac grabbed 2 and B on his own without any sort of support to come by. So it was the fact that a lot of pressure was being applied on a lot of different choke points across the map that really left FlipSide in a horrible situation. But I want to give a lot of credit, I should say, and a shout out here to Bonding. He's dropped 30 frags so far in what is the 25th round at the moment. He's done a monster job for his team, really stepping up. Make it 31 as he converts onto the head of paint there as he does save his gun. World Edit as well, doing a great job of converting these alt frags to take that into the next round. Jim, you have your hand on your head at the moment.
Yeah, absolute disaster for Panthers here as they lost 3 members in quick succession. They had all 5 members surviving, but some great work there on the exit frags, just defending their own guns with FlipSide. They lost 3 members, and of course, with their money situation already so low, I can really only see Skirk able to buy the minimum here, and it's on a knife's edge this game.
Well, it's going to be tough, but if history is anything to go by, we've seen teams have been able to string multiple rounds together. So will that, I guess, be history repeating itself? Panthers, 11-14 down. They desperately need rounds. You can see World Ed very aggressive here with Yorp. Ever so close there, Mac, and oh, he whips that crosshair down onto the dome of Mac and rips his head off as a result. trying to get away, gets a second frag. Great work there, he's hungry for a third. He steps, gets taken down by Mystic. He's a little bit too greedy, but he certainly did his work that round in terms of getting those 2 frags and shutting down that aggression. All of a sudden, it's all left up to do for 2 members. The pace has slowed down. Polly has the bomb in hand. Paint making his way through connector here, Jim, and they're going to have to try and make something of this horrible situation they find themselves in.
Yeah, this is a crucial round. We've earmarked it as this, of course, with FlipSide just on the precipice of getting that 15th all-important round, that match point. They are going to work this A site here, and it is going to be Paint that is going to try and open something up with his teammate here, Polly, just looking for that frag around the bomb boxes there. They do know that there is a CT, and of course they have the information that that is going to be the case. Blade making that call there, the CT rotation coming in. Of course, the GoTV lag misses some crucial action there, but nonetheless, the important fact is FlipSide Tactics have that 15th round, and they have Everest to climb here.
We didn't miss any action, Jim. The scoreboard is telling the tale at the moment. Bondic, 33 frags. He is leading the way for his team. He's actually highway robbery given the fact that he only has 3 MVP stars. I'd be lodging a support ticket with Valve after this match because that is not fair. He is putting up a lion's share of the work, and his teammates, they've had enough for this match tonight. FlipSide, Blade, and his teammate there in the form of, I think, Shara, getting a frag apiece. They want to seal the deal now. It's 2v2. They only need one more round to finish this off. And you can see Mac taking a lot of damage at the moment. Bondic there from heaven, spotting him out. He's punished, though, as a result of perhaps lingering around a little bit too long, allowing Mac and both Polly to live at least for a few more seconds. But in the end, it is Blade with that flank from Sandbags, putting all the pressure on Polly's shoulders. He does carry a lot of responsibility for this team. He's the in-game leader, the AWPer, and he will need to be, at least for this round, their saviour, as he finds himself with only 5 points of health in a 1-on-2, moving his way very, very slowly up the stairs, trying to catch one more guard. He does get Bondic there, catching him on the CT stairs. He moves in towards A. Now, plenty of time left, but crucially, he will get that bomb down. Now, Blade, he's coming from the flank. He spots him out, and Blade takes him down. Polly couldn't quite react fast enough there as he did have the bomb in hand. And that will be FlipSide winning the second map here, 16-11. It's been a fantastic series. We've seen Panthers take the first map on Mirage 16-9. And we've seen FlipSide get their due revenge on Overpass 16-11.
That was about as tense as it could be. FlipSide, of course, the victors on what was Panthers' pick of maps. They, funnily enough, both won each other's pick in the map pool. That a lot of people were questioning Panthers' choice to take Overpass because for the most part on their CT side they looked a little lost, lacked a little bit of direction, but they were able to make it work and string, I think it was about 6 rounds together there as CTs and make a late comeback. But their T side really is where they fell behind as FlipSide Tactics just capitalised so well and really led the charge in that second half.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think my assessment probably of the 2 maps in their entirety it was probably what I expected to see from FlipSide in terms of definitely the pace in which they played, definitely in terms of their preference to go very, very slow to execute onto sites in a methodical approach. Nothing that I saw from them really surprised me. Obviously, the fragging from Bondic was really, really good to see on that second map as he dropped 30-plus frags, had a monster effort. But for me, the talking point of the night was really what we saw from Panthers, the ex-London Conspiracy Squad. We've seen just recently, you only have to look at HLTV.org, that they're currently looking for an organisation to support them. And these guys, you can see why, because they've got so much talent and potential. There were glimpses in those matches, particularly on Mirage, where when they were playing aggressive and fast, they were really wrecking heads and taking it to Team FlipSide. It was unfortunately for them when they were slowing down the pace, particularly on the second map in which they were overwhelmed and succumbed by that, I guess, pressure that FlipSide were putting on them. I just hope that this team, as they move forward in this competition, because this is obviously their best result to date so far in CounterPit, that they recognise what has been working for them. I think they'll go from strength to strength. I think they've got a lot of star potential in their team. Mystic was an absolute champion. Skirt with pistols. What an absolute little beast. Wrecking heads with those deedles. But great signs of, I guess, growth from Panthers. I'm really looking forward to seeing how they go in this competition.
Yeah, I'm keen to see more of these guys. As we saw, their aim is certainly something to contend with, as at times FlipSide really struggled in a lot of those matchups, particularly on Mirage. Those guys were just running riot with those pistols. The 1Ds were certainly, I guess, maybe